Today, I'm going to be making a short instrumental song from your commented ideas. So let's get into this. Here's day 2 of 10 where I'm making a short instrumental song from your commented ideas. So here are your comments from the last few days, which I'm going to be using for today's song.
So the first comment was entirely off of vibes, make what you want. So I've put a bit of my own thought into this on what I'd like to use. Another one was epic. How about some acoustic guitar tomorrow? Firstly, thank you. Secondly, I'll definitely be putting some acoustic guitar in today. Hard German techno. Never heard of it before, but I've done a bit of research, so I'm using that for the drums. Can you do a frantic song from like a racing game kind of vibe with a large brass and frantic drums? That would be cool. Also sounds great. Thanks very much. I'll definitely do that. And rain. I can put that in.
If you have any ideas for my next song in a few days, make sure to comment them down below so that your comments could be featured in the next video. Now I'm going to show you how I made this song. So let's check it out on Logic Pro.
So here we go. We are in Logic Pro. So I'm selecting an electric drums here. Some deep tech. I thought techno tech would work, so I've put like a a kick on every beat, sticking with the 160 BPM from the last video, and so it's keeping nice and fast. And the hi-hats, there's an open hi-hat on the offbeat of each beat. I also changed it to A minor there. Started putting in some brass because we had a comment saying about frantic brass, so I put some of that in, just sort of an ascending 4 notes in A minor, and then sort of figured out something sounds off, tried some different brass sounds, made a lower part as well, because, you know, low brass is awesome, but that's coming from a trombone player, so of course I'm going to be biased, but so you got the brass in and sorted out the lengths so that it sounded about right. Then I tried to add some harmony into it, but it just didn't sound great when I played it through. I was like, oh no. So I deleted that out, put in just empty gaps there, so it was just the ascending in octaves, A minor, so A, B, C, D. Simple. Then I went on to the acoustic guitar. So I've got the drums from the hard German techno. It was a typical drum beat that just kept coming up in a lot of the songs that I was listening to for research. I've got the brass, the frantic brass, and it's quite fast, so it feels like a racing game, kind of, you know, you've got the high energy. The acoustic guitar is going in now. I didn't play any of this in live, I just did it all by putting it in on the piano roll. Quicker, saved time, so that's the only reason I did that. Tried to figure out how to make the brass sound better, because it still just sounded a bit off. Ended up going for a more authentic kind of brass sound than a synthy one. Ended up sounding better. I added a bit of the Space Designer on there because I thought something still sounds off, so added that, and also onto the acoustic guitar just to make sure it all sounded much nicer. Yeah, came up with a little line for the acoustic guitar. There's not a specific melody in this song, but I had to go along with it, see what I could come up with. I put some EQ on the guitar as well, and sounded a lot better afterwards. Turned the volume down a bit on it because I had it on quite a low volume, so I ended up realising that it was in the red zone. Found a rain effect on the loops and thought that sounds good, trimmed it down, and then I decided to do a bit of changing around once I added in the rain. So it's sort of figuring out where I want to start it, what I want to be in the introduction. Realised I want another brass line with the same notes but half the speed at the start. And I thought it'd be a cool sort of introduction kind of thing. And so I did that. Realised once I'd edited that bit that firstly it didn't need to be so detached. Secondly, it had ended up doing all of that editing to the other brass bit that I'd already pre-done. So I had to edit that again, get it back to how it was. But I sorted it out and it all worked. It was not hard to fix. Had a listen to it, thought, yeah, this is sounding good. And then I thought, I've got some free rein. Firstly I'm going to add a lower bit of brass on here because I need just a low held A. I thought that sounded really cool. And then listened to the acoustic guitar part and thought, you know what, I've got free rein on putting a bit of my own stuff in here that I want to use. So I put in this really quick like semi-quaver violin part, which I thought sounded pretty cool. Again, did it on the piano roll, figured out what notes sounded like they fitted. It took me a while to get the right sound on the violins because it was so quiet and it just wasn't quite working with everything else. And then I figured out how I want the song to be laid out a bit, but I still couldn't hear the violins, so I sorted out a bit of the EQ on it, figured out like which areas needed to be enhanced a bit, and tried to make it sound a bit better, and then it went a bit too loud, and then it sounded a bit strange. So kept messing around with it, trying to sort it out, realised it was then too loud, turned it down, then needed to turn the master volume down. Had a lot of problems when trying to do this violin part, but I ended up figuring it out after messing around with the EQ a bit more and some other bits. Listened over it a few times to see how it sounded, if I could even hear the violins. I could barely hear them. They were covered up by the brass. Put them on staccato notes, it made it a bit easier. They were defined slightly better than when they were on legato. So I went with the staccato articulation on there. Messed about with the EQ a bit more after then figuring out how to make it sound a little bit better.
Well, it's time to check out the song then. Let's give it a listen from your ideas. So then, let me know what you thought of the song in the comments, and make sure to comment your ideas for the next video and subscribe so you don't miss out. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.